Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the next video. We're going to continue on where we left off last time. So let's go ahead and create and talk about list this time. So let's say defining a list. So I'm going to say defining a list, and I'm going to click on this button here, click on heading, and click on OK, and do a Shift Enter to go down now. Okay. So now let's create a list. Let's create a list called list, and let's just call it geology, drilling, completions, and let's just say production. Okay, and let's just create this, put it in string format here. So let's just run that, and let's do list. Here we go. So we got geology, drilling, completions, production. Let's go ahead and try to add or append another name to the end of this list. Let's just say, so you can use the append function. So list.append. If you just type in AP and then hit tab, Jupyter Notebook will automatically auto-populate the rest of it for you. Or if you actually delete it and just say list dot and hit tab, it will give you all the functionalities, all the functions that are available, like for you to run. In this case, we were interested in append, so I'm going to select append. And then I'm going to append, let's just append something called frac, okay, to the end of this list. So I'm going to append frac to this. If I do Shift Enter, and then now call in list, I have geology, drilling, completions, production, and frac. So it appended frac to the end of this list. You can also append a number. So let's just say list dot append. Let's just do append a number such as, I don't know, 500, for example. If I run this, and if I call in list again, it's going to show me geology, drilling, completions, production, frac, and the new appended integer of 500. So now let's go over calling or picking a certain names from this list. Let's just say if I'm interested in geology, drilling, completions, and frac, let's just say list, and I can do bracket. I can say I'm interested from 0 to, so 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. I want to exclude the frac, so I'm going to say 0 to 4. So that's going to give me geology, drilling, completions, and production, excluding the fourth index. As I said, in Python, indexing starts with 0. So you got 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And this says 0 to 4, which means it's going to exclude the fourth index in this case, and it's going to be left with geology, drilling, completions, and production. So I can also replace, for example, let's just say if I want to replace drilling with drilling operations, I can say list, and I can say bracket. Drilling is in the is the 0 is index number 0, 1, so it should be 1, list 1. I'm going to replace it with, let's just say I'm going to replace drilling with drilling operations, for example, in this case. And if I run this and call in list now, so now I have geology. Drilling was replaced with drilling operations, and I have completions, production, frac, and 100. So you can easily replace whatever you want like in a list when you have such thing. Now let's go ahead and go over the print function. So let's just say I have a string called a is equal to machine learning is a subset of AI, okay? Which is machine learning is a subset of, let's just say, artificial intelligence instead of AI. Intelligence, and put parentheses AI, okay? Let's just say I have this string here. If I call A, it's going to give me machine learning is a subset of AI. I can also do print A. And what happens is you can see the single quote was removed when you print that list, or just the string in this case. So if I'm interested, for example, to print all of these um, strings and at the end value, in this case, in this list, what I can do, I can say print list, and I can say list, for example, index 0. If I just run this, it's going to give me just geology. Now I can also add the other ones. I can just copy and paste this 3, 4, 5 times, and I can run. I want index 1, index 2, index 3, and index 4. So if I run this now, I've got, I can actually have one more index. So let's just do one more. And now I have 5. So here we go. So now if I run this, I've got geology, drilling operations, completions, production, frac, 500. These are all the indexes that I had in my list. So you can actually print those out separately if you'd like to. So this is basically, that's pretty much it for creating a list. Now let's talk about creating a nested list. Okay, so let's say creating, actually before we go into the creating a nested list, let's go over some more basic functionalities here. Let's just say, if you want to run this entire Jupyter notebook from the very beginning where we started, you can always do Shift Enter and just run each line of code until it's done, until you get to the bottom. And that might be pretty time consuming, right? Or one other shortcut that you can take is just click on kernel and click on restart and run all, and that will run the whole thing for you. So here we go, restart, run all. It ran everything for you. Of course, it didn't take as long. And the reason for that is because, these are very simple lines of code that we're doing here. We're just doing basic stuff. And that's why it ran pretty quickly. Now, if you're running more complex models, when you do restart and run all, if you have a machine learning model, if you have more complex stuff, it's going to take longer, of course. So that's for that. And also, if you want to get all the shortcuts, you can always go to help and click on keyboard shortcuts. And it shows you all the shortcuts that you can use in Jupyter Notebook, okay? These are associated with just Jupyter Notebook, so you can use any of them. These come in pretty handy. The ones that I use quite often, of course, you can, if you click enter, it would allow you to enter the code, or let's just say import NumPy as MP, for example, just a library. But if you want to move back to that line of code, you can hit escape and it would take you there. So you can hit DD, which would delete that line. Shift enter will create new lines. And if you want to create a line between these two, for example, you can come here and do Alt enter. And when you do Alt enter, it will create a new line between these two. So if I want to create a new line between this guy and this line of code here, I can just come here and hit Alt enter. Or you can, let me actually delete these two lines, DD. I'm going to come here, delete these two lines. You can also use the insert and do insert cell above or insert cell below. So you can easily use these functions, but I like to use the shortcuts myself. So you can use the shortcuts as much as you can to get more efficient at it. More power to you. So these are some of the basics that I wanted to cover. So now let's go on to creating a nested list. A nested list is simply a list inside of another list. Okay, so we want to create a nested list and then call in certain numbers or strings from that nested list. So with that, let's get started. So now let's go ahead and do a Control A and change this to a heading so you can clearly follow this. Let's do Shift Enter. Now let's do nested list. I'm going to create something called nested list called nested list. And let's just say 10, 30. Let's make it 10, 20, and then make it simple, say 30, 40, and 50, and 60. Okay. So you can see this list right here is located inside of this main list. That's why it's called a nested list. So if I now print nested list, by the way, if you type in nest and then hit tab, it should autocomplete the rest of it for you to save you some time as opposed to typing the whole thing. So here we go. So now if I want to call in, for example, if I want to get a number such as 30 from this nested list, first what I would have to do is I would have to say nested list bracket. First off, we got to get to the second list, which is 30, 40, 50, and 60. So as I said, in Python, indexing starts with 0. So I have 0, 1, and 2. So to get to this second nested list, to get to the second list, I would have to type in 2 here. So now you can see it gave me 30, 40, 50, and 60. Now, if I want to get to number 30, for example, you can choose add another bracket, square bracket, and say 0, because 30 is the first number, so it's index 0. And here we go. When you run this line of code, you get 30. You can run the same thing, and instead of 0, put in 1, which will give you 0, 1, which will give you number 40. If you want like number 60, you can do 0, 1, 2, 3. So let's type in 3. Here we go. Here's your 60. So that's one. Let's create another nested list and make it a little more complicated. So nested list 2. I'm going to call it nested list 2, just the name of it. And let's just say this nested list is going to consist of 10, 20, and then I'm going to do 30, 40, 50, 60, and I'm going to add another list, a third list inside of this. I'm going to say 4, 4, 3, and 1. Okay, so if I run this, if I do nested list, nested, if I hit tab, so it gives me two options. It has nested list, and it also has nested list 2. So in this case, this is the second one that I created. So let's select that one and hit and do shift enter. Here we go. So let's say I'm interested in getting the number 3 out of this nested list. Okay, let's go through that exercise together. So if I do nested list 2, square bracket, and I'm going to select 0, 1, 2. So 2 will get me to this nested list. Now, if I want to get to the second or to the third nested list, or to the third list, so I can do 0, 1, 2. I'm sorry, 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So let's do 4. So now it brought me to this list, and I'm interested in getting number 3 out of this. So I'm going to do 0 and 1. So square bracket 1. Here we go. So now I was able to get the desired value, in this case, the desired integer value, and get to that with using the square bracket 3 times to get to that to basically what I want. So now let's also talk about dictionaries. If you want to create a dictionary, you can create a simple dictionary using squarely brackets. So let's just create a dictionary called A is equal to. This is the bracket notation that we use for dictionary in Python. So let's just create that. So we have, let's just create a dictionary, call it ML models. Okay. And then we're also going to put in, ANN, different types of machine learning models within that. So let's just say ANN. Let's also add support vector machine. Let's also add random forest. Let's also add gradient boosting, for example. And let's add also extreme gradient boosting, XGB. Okay. And let's add a comma here, hit enter, and add a score for each one of these machine learning models too. So I'm going to do score, or let's just call it accuracy, actually. Call it accuracy, which is the R square in this case. And let's just call the accuracy and add in the accuracy for each one. So we've got 90 for ANN, 85 for support vector machine, 95, for example, for random forest, 90 and 100 for gradient boosting, extreme gradient boosting. And let's just run that. And here's basically the dictionary that I have. So let's go ahead and call in, try to get ANN, support vector machine, random forest, gradient boosting, and extreme gradient boosting. So the way to do that is pretty simple. We can do a square bracket and just type in ML models, and then it will spit out these guys here. Now, if I'm interested in just obtaining the first, just ANN, support vector machine, and random forest, I can just copy and paste this whole thing here and just add another square bracket. Say I want from 0 to 0, 1, 2, 3, and it's going to exclude this gradient boosting. So if I put in 3, here we go. So it spit out ANN, SVM, which is support vector machine, and random forest. So here's basically what I have here. So now let's create another dictionary, make it a little bit more challenging. Let's call it D, as in Delta, is equal to this kind of bracket notation. And let's just say A colon and add another dictionary inside of that, call it inner A, and also add in a list inside of that. So 1, 2, and 3. Okay, and run this. Here we go. We got A, inner A, 1, 2, and 3. So if I'm interested to obtain the number 2 from this, if I'm interested to obtain number 2, first thing that I got to do, just type in D and square bracket. First, let's get A. That gives me to this guy here. Now, I also want to get to number 2. So what I would have to do is add another, let's just copy and paste this right below. Let's add another square bracket and type in inner A. Inner A. Okay, if I run this, it's going to give me 1, 2, 3. I can copy and paste this again at the bottom and say, well, I'm interested in getting number 2. So it's going to be 0 and index 1. Here we go. So here's just as simple as getting this, what I want out of this index nested dictionary that I have in this case. So also let's do one more example here. So let's just say I have a list. I'm going to call it list 3. And I'm going to say this list has 100, 200, 300, and 400. Okay. If I do list 3, and I can replace, for example, the first or index 0 with, let's just call it new. Okay. If I run this and ask for list 3 to be run, it's going to replace number 100, which is index 0, with new. So this is just another example as far as going through these lists, nested lists. Hopefully you liked this lesson here. Pretty short and to the point. If you liked this video, feel free to like and subscribe to our channel, Obsertelligence. And I'm going to make more videos on continue on with the fundamentals and move on to more advanced topics. Thank you very much, everybody. We'll see you guys in the next lecture.